Good morning. Thank you for coming today. My name is Paul Formica. I'm the current state senator of the 20th District, which includes towns, a portion of Old Saybrook, Old Lyme, East Lyme, Waterford, New London, a portion of Montville, Basra, and Salem. And I'm joined today by Representative Devin Carney of the 23rd District, Joe Sastry, who is the president of the Connecticut Emergency Management Association, and John and David Daniels from Daniels Propane, where today Representative Carney and I are announcing our plan to co-introduce a bill to eliminate the tax, the gross receipt tax on propane used to power generators here in the state of Connecticut. The gross receipt tax was established in 1995. It's under the Connecticut General Statutes 12587, and it applies to those uses exclusively for generators. However, a recent interpretation by the Department of Revenue Services has a tax applying to all use of propane. And in that same statute, there is an exemption carved out for those uses that have to do with heating, both of inside your home or business or municipality, as well as providing heat for your pool, your hot water, or any of those exemptions. Representative Carney and I feel that this tax is unfair. It eliminates that exemption, and at the same time, it costs the people who have been proactive in terms of putting generators on their homes, businesses, or here in the municipalities to keep essential services and buildings open during any catastrophic events. You know, we're here in the town of East Lyme today, steps away from Long Island Sound that got battered by two major hurricanes, a large snow event, as did many people in the state. And when power was disrupted for a day or up to a week. So we think that this tax penalizes people for being proactive, and it eliminates the exemption. And so today we're also calling for the Department of Revenue Services to suspend its collection of this tax until this can be further identified and that exemption recognized. So I'd like to introduce Representative Carney. He'll come out and say a few words. Representative?
Thank you very much, Senator Formica. First of all, I just want to wish those of you who are celebrating a Happy New Year today. But I wanted to just discuss with how this is affecting my constituents. I represent the 23rd District, which is Old Saybrook, Westbrook, Old Lyme, and Lyme. Now, these communities were badly damaged during both Hurricane Irene and Hurricane Sandy, and it caused a lot of folks to be proactive and go and purchase generators to hook up to their propane supplies. And I was just so baffled when I started to hear from my constituents that they're now being taxed for doing something good. Now, the propane industry had told me that they attempted to carve out an exemption for folks with generators, and it unfortunately did not go anywhere, and I would love to find out why it did not go anywhere, and I'd like to call on those folks who maybe up in Hartford on the Finance Committee decided that this was a good idea not to put in this exemption. But I just want to read how this is affecting real people. One of my constituents in Lyme. While I use propane for heating and hot water, I also need a generator to protect my home for both insurance and security reasons. This tax is completely unfair and wrong. Residents who have diesel generators are not subject to this tax. This is just one more means of nickel and diming the good people of Connecticut. In Old Saybrook, I find this tax to be completely unfair and just another way that our governor is forcibly persuading people like us to consider a future in Florida. I urge you to let the governor's office hear my voice and many others like me that continue to be pounded by Hartford's endless search for tax revenue from the wrong source. From Old Lyme, I think this tax is completely unfair and should be repealed immediately. This insanity regarding raising taxes on just about every aspect of people's lives has to stop. And finally, from Westbrook, I just received a letter stating Connecticut is now imposing an 8.81% tax on propane used for generators. What are you trying to do? My dad needed a generator for life support for 24-hour oxygen. We were without power for 7 days and lost food and had no water. We installed a generator. You all sing the song of no more taxes and wonder why so many houses are for sale. Wake up. And that one hit me the hardest because you have people, real people, doing good things, protecting their loved ones, whether they're senior citizens who need supplies like oxygen tanks, and children who need food, water, be able to shower. And most of these people, if they didn't have this generator, they'd be going to a state-funded or a town-funded or a federal-funded shelter to begin with. So these people are doing something good. They're being self-sufficient, and they are being taxed in this state for doing so. And that is completely wrong. And I am so proud to stand here today with Senator Formica to call an end to this insanity. And I hope the people, the majority party, the Democrats up in Hartford are listening to this one, because we're not going to stop until we see this repealed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative. Joe Sastry is a longtime worker in emergency services. He's the president of the Connecticut Emergency Managers Association. And, you know, we know that the suppliers have taken great steps to mitigate our losses of power by tree trimming. Many towns are working on that, upgrading of equipment. So I'd like to introduce Mr. Sastry to talk a little bit about the effect of this tax.
Good morning, and thank you for inviting me this morning. You know, since 2010, the state of Connecticut has gone through 5 presidential disaster declarations for weather-related events. That's 5. We've spent an inordinate amount of time trying to teach our residents and our businesses to be more resilient, to be more independent, to be more prepared. The governor comes out and tells people, you need to do more to take care of yourselves. Don't wait for, you know, the state and the federal government to step in. People like myself, local emergency management directors around the state of Connecticut, we reach out to our community residents and we try to teach them how to be more resilient. And then to add on to what was indicated, what was earlier said, these same people, the people who take steps to put generators in their houses so that they can stay home with their electrical medical devices, so that they can stay home because their house stays warm in the wintertime, so that they can stay home and be independent, they get whacked for a 9% tax rate simply because they chose to put a generator, a propane-powered generator in their house. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It sends a mixed message to the people. You know, if I have an in-ground swimming pool, I can have a propane heater and I can warm my pool in the middle of winter so I can go swimming and I'm not taxed on it. But if I put a propane-powered generator into my house and run it off that same tank of propane, I'm going to get whacked for another 8.8% taxes. And it just does not make sense. It's sending the wrong message. It's punishing people for trying to do the right thing, for trying to take care of themselves, trying to take care of their houses and their families. And it's just ridiculous. And we all realize the state of Connecticut needs to collect taxes to do all the things they do. But please, this is just ridiculous. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Behind me also representing small business, a business that's established here in the state of Connecticut over 87 years ago, John and David Daniels, who would like to say a couple words with regard to the practical application of this tax. Mr. Daniels?
Thank you, Senator Formica. It has been almost 3 years since Superstorm Sandy. After Sandy, many homeowners throughout Connecticut installed propane generators so they would have access to life's basic necessities such as well water for drinking and sanitary use, refrigeration for their food, and lights in their homes. Many of these homeowners also use propane for heating their homes in the winter and providing their families with hot water throughout the balance of the year. Most of these homes use approximately 12 gallons of propane a year to periodically test run their generators. The balance of their usage is for other non-taxable uses such as heat, hot water, and cooking. Many of these homes use 800 to 1,500 gallons of propane per year for these non-taxable uses. Most of these homes have not had any significant generator usage of propane since Superstorm Sandy, and thus the balance of their usage, had this enforcement change in the gross receipts tax gone into effect 3 years ago, would have been subject to the 8.8% gross receipts tax, costing these homeowners hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. Going forward, the same would be true, making all these gallons used for non-taxable usage subject to the 8.81% gross receipts tax. This puts an unfair and heavy tax burden on those families who rely on their generators only in times of absolute emergency for life's basics, such as well water for drinking and other daily uses. The use of propane for electricity generation on these homes constitutes an incredibly small portion of their annual usage, but this new enforcement change makes their entire usage subject to the gross receipts tax. I hope that Senator Formica and our other legislators will help us repeal this new enforcement and restore fairness in the gross receipts tax for the families of the state of Connecticut. I thank all involved for their help in this matter.
Thank you, David. In conclusion, Representative Carney and I will be co-introducing a bill to eliminate this tax and to restore the exemption that rightfully belongs to the people who use it in the state of Connecticut. And we urge our other colleagues in the Assembly to sign on to that as we present this to the Energy Committee and the Finance Committee in the coming session. So thank you very much for coming. We appreciate it. We'll be happy to take any questions if you have any.